Let's go now to Emily Pagashnik for the weather news. Emily?
Thanks, Morgan. Here in the weather studio, we've been taking a look at flooding in Thailand. In some areas, it's got as tall as waist deep. And the flooding came quickly overnight with heavy rainfall, forcing evacuations during the evening or during night. And the Royal Army has sent out troops to try and get the drainage situation under control, and they've pretty much got that handled in about 3 hours. In Texas, there's been some brush fires outside of Austin. It forced evacuations for a area with some campers, and people are remembering the forest fire or the fires back in 2011 that were the most destructive fires in Texas history. And wildfires, they can go or become bigger very quickly with winds. And here we're going to take a look at the polar jet stream, which is a stream of air that runs very fast, about 275 miles per hour, or about 4 to 8 miles above the Earth's surface. And in the winter, in the fall, hangs out in central Canada with the cold air here and the warm air down to the south of it. And it dips down into the United States, bringing a shot of cold air. It only lasts for a couple of days before it moves back up into Canada. But as we continue on into winter, we'll see that jet stream move down into the central part of the United States, kind of hanging out there for most of the winter. And since we are getting deeper into fall, a lot of beekeepers around the area have to be careful in how they take care of their bees.
Most times, if you see smoke coming from someone's backyard, it could mean trouble. But in Paul Knight's backyard, smoke means something sweet.
Bees dying all over the nation, and so I thought, maybe I'll just try it myself, mostly out of the desire to learn a new hobby.
Many people stay away from bees. However, Paul knows how to handle them.
Concentrate on paying attention to them, and if they're getting agitated, I'll either use more smoke or walk away.
Smoke helps to calm bees. It simulates a fire near the hive. The bees turn their attention to their honey instead of the beekeeper. Winter is another threat to honeybees.
Most bees left here, unless they're prepared properly, will die.
Bees start to prepare for the winter during the fall.
They collect nectar and pollen, they put it in a honeycomb and create honey, and they'll eat that all winter.
Winters in North Dakota are harsh, and thus honeybees' health is important.
And so the honey itself is like a health food. And so they eat that and they create their own health.
Paul says the bees need enough honey to last them through the hard winter. He also plans to insulate the beehive to help them survive. I am Samadhi Herat, reporting for Studio One.
And the hives have to keep an internal temperature of about 55 degrees Fahrenheit, otherwise the bees could perish. And that brings us to our weather question of the week. What was the fastest wind gust ever recorded in the United States? Is it 96 miles per hour, 187, 231, or 302 miles per hour? Now, Morgan, this actually held the record for about 60 years for the highest wind gust in the world.
All right, well, thanks, Emily. Now, Emily joins us in the studio with a final look at the weather. Emily?
Thanks, Morgan. As we look at our temperatures for the next week, we're going to be well above average for most of the country again, with a lot of the heat hanging out in Michigan and Wisconsin. For precipitation, we'll see most of the country getting a little bit here and there, with most of it hanging out in Texas and Oklahoma, with the western and eastern coasts both being pretty dry. And that brings us back to our weather question of the week. What was the fastest wind gust ever recorded in the United States? That is actually 231 miles per hour. It happened in Mount Washington in New Hampshire, and Morgan, it is still the record holder for the fastest wind gust observed by man.
Well, that's scary fast.
Yep.
Thanks, Emily.